Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed, yes, to a Thursday edition of the Mark Moses Show. As we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life. This is very key. Call them today here in March, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. It's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Yes, good afternoon. It is Thursday here on the coast in beautiful Central Florida. And when I woke up this morning, I had an idea on a show where we're going to talk a little college football. We're going to talk some, conference tournaments for college ball, which are going to be starting up pretty much next week. And all this stuff. And then the NFL doesn't mess around. The NFL always decides we are king when it comes to content. Even though there's no games going on, they are king. And you're like, Mark, what are you talking about? In case you're just waking up from a coma, there was a big-time trade in the NFL today involving the Chicago Bears and the Buffalo Bills. Two teams who are on different conferences, but both are going for a chance to get to the Super Bowl next year. And you're like, well, what happened exactly? Here's what happened. The Chicago Bears have traded star wide receiver DJ Moore and a fifth-round pick to the Buffalo Bills today for a second-round pick. Both those picks are in this upcoming 2026 NFL draft. And I'll start with the Bills. From their perspective, after what happened in this past postseason, where they're there at Denver, second round, divisional round, and they're in overtime, they're right there, and they fall short. And Josh Allen is crying there at the podium because he's falling short, and Denver's moving on, and their heated rival, the New England Patriots, are moving on. And he was just thinking in that moment, and the whole organization, if we just had some type of big-time receiver, maybe we can get to the Super Bowl. Well, today, the Bills made a phone call, and they went for it. They pulled the triggers, they say. They're all in. They're getting DJ Moore. They're giving up a second-round pick, and they're going to pay DJ Moore his big contract. They feel like Buffalo, they feel like this is the final piece we have been missing, where if we get DJ Moore with Josh Allen, we can win that division, we can make a deep playoff run, and we can finally get back to the Super Bowl for the first time in about 30 years or so. That's what it feels like from Buffalo. Buffalo is all in. And when DJ Moore shows up, he's going to an organization that's won a lot of football games, and they want to win now. And there's going to be pressure on DJ Moore, especially where they're picking up his big contract, and there's this pressure for him to produce. He better produce. Every Buffalo Bills fan is thinking the same thing. He's going to be in the slot. He's going to go deep. Josh Allen, our MVP quarterback, is going to get him the rock, and we're going to win. This can't be, if you're the Bills, you're DJ Moore, this can't be, oh, well, he's going to have 50 catches and maybe 7 touchdowns. No. They want that Carolina Panthers DJ Moore from 5 years ago, where 100 catches, 1,200 yards receiving, big, deep threat. They want that. That's what they're expecting there in Buffalo. New stadium, new wide receiver. Let's get to the Super Bowl. They're all in. They're at the Vegas table. Chips all in. They want to win. Now, for the Bears, which I know you really hear because you want to hear my opinion, here's where it's a little bittersweet. I like DJ Moore. He was a big part of this offense over the last 3 years there in Chicago. He got the big contract extension last offseason. So the way I'm trying to say this is not 25-24. You saw it on Hard Knocks. He got the extension. Big time money. And the Chicago Bears decided with the new year starting next week, we don't want to pay this guy long-term. They are telling DJ Moore, we don't need you. We're going to be just fine without you. We have other offensive weapons that are cheaper than you, younger than you, who can put up that production that you were doing for us over the last 2 years or so. We have Colson Loveland, big tight end, who could become a superstar in the NFL. We have Burton III from Missouri, who really caught on, again, him as well, second half of the season, where he can maybe become a 1 or 2 in any offense in the NFL. And Rome Odunze, remember, same NFL draft as Caleb Williams, top 10 pick, very injured second year for him. Rome Odunze is another guy where, all right, time to step up. You'll be the number one guy. The front office of the Bears decided we are fine without DJ Moore. And again, it breaks my heart to say this. I like DJ Moore. You heard me talk 2 days ago where I would not trade him for Max Crosby there to the Las Vegas Raiders. I'd rather keep DJ Moore. There's rumblings at this hour saying that the Raiders didn't want Moore, didn't want his big contract. Now, that's just rumblings. We don't know if that's true or not. They made this move to Buffalo. Maybe that's still in play for Chicago. Second-round pick. They got the first-round pick this year. Maybe they still call up the Vegas Raiders. Hey, we got draft capital now. Maybe we still want Crosby, because I keep hammering this. Ever since they lost to the Rams in the divisional round, the Bears need a better defense. Offense is there. Can they get the defense better? That's the question. But today the Bears decided, and this is why it's a very mean sport. If a team feels like you're not worth the price tag, they're going to move on from you. They don't care. They have to go younger. And they decided Burton, Odunze, Loveland, and maybe there's another guy in there that maybe they draft or they bring in as free agent cheaper. They've got to win now, and they've got to beef up that defense. So if you think about it, I know they lost one of their offensive linemen also earlier this week. It feels like at the skill position, the Bears have decided they're all in on their skilled position players, and they don't need DJ Moore. Even though DJ Moore, let's just go over this. DJ Moore, he was the reason they beat the Green Bay Packers in that regular season game, and then in the playoff game, he made plays down the stretch. He did. Without DJ Moore and the Bears, I don't think they win those 2 games. I don't think so. DJ Moore is a big part of this team, but the big controversy, if you ask Bears fans, is that divisional game. Overtime, they're at home. Remember, they stop the Rams. They get the ball back. They're going down the field. Caleb Williams throws a ball to DJ Moore. It looks like on the route, maybe there's miscommunication, or Moore did not run out for that ball. Picked off, Rams get it, they go down the field, they hit the field goal, they move on. It's going to be a great what if. Great what if with DJ Moore. 3 seasons with the Bears. He put up big stats the first 2. His stats dipped in year 3. And he made some big plays, like I said, against the Packers. But against the Rams in that divisional game, didn't make the catch when it was needed. Didn't make the play. And I feel bad for him from this standpoint. He's going to have to live with that. And you got traded to the Bears in your prime. 3 seasons, 3 great years. You didn't win anything. You didn't do anything. You made the playoffs once. That's got to sting. This is your career. You only get to play once. You didn't get really a lot done on the football field from a standpoint of winning and losing. So now Moore's going to go to Buffalo. Can Moore, 29 years old, guaranteed his contract this year and next. Chicago said, no, we're not going to pay it. Buffalo said, we are going to pay it. This is the key. Can he deliver for Buffalo? Because you know he's going to be motivated now. The Bears said, we don't want you. Buffalo says we do. Now you got to go produce. So I think this is going to be a fluid conversation. Buffalo is set, but I would just be set with DJ Moore. Like, that trade is set. But I think if you're Buffalo, go get some more weapons for Josh Allen. The window is open now. For the Bears, they're making a big gamble here. They're saying we don't need DJ Moore. We're still going to have an explosive offense. Going to be fascinating to see coming up this fall. So again, I was going to start with college basketball. Remembering Lou Holtz, all that stuff. And rest in peace to legendary coach in college football. So it's just interesting. DJ Moore to the Bills. Leave your comments. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this trade, right? And you can follow me on all the socials at Mark Moses Show. Very key. All right. This morning, great conversation with a great friend of mine. Never had him on the podcast. We usually just did the radio. does a great job covering college basketball there in North Carolina. I'm going to bring it up right now. Here's Brett Friedlander. We got to talk about Lou Holtz, the ACC, how good is Duke. Let's do that right now here on the Mark Moses Show. It's one of my great friends in the industry there in North Carolina. Does a great job with, I can't even keep up with the publications. He's all over the place. He will explain it better than I can. He is Brett Friedlander. We got much to discuss. Brett, how you doing today?
I am doing great. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and we get to see each other face to face here.
That is correct. All right, before we get into it, who do you work for? We got to know this, man.
Okay, my semi-main gig is hoopshq.com. It's the website started by Seth Davis. Basically, not basically, but it is 100% dedicated to college basketball. And then I also work for a website called Straight Up Sports. It's based in the upstate of South Carolina, run by a friend of mine, longtime friend named Mark Sturgis. And I write a once a week piece about ACC, and it's fun to stay in it. I retired from the full-time gig back in June, but this is good because I get to do things on my own terms now.
That is very nice, and congratulations on that last June. All right, before we get to basketball, even though you just said that, I got to get your thoughts on Lou Holtz. As a guy that's been around college sports a long time, what were your thoughts when you heard that news yesterday?
Sad, but expecting it because he went into hospice about 2 weeks ago. Lou coached at my alma mater, South Carolina, and helped restore that program. He got off to a rough start, but he got that program headed back in the right direction. And Steve Spurrier took over after that and took it to its highest level ever. But the thing I remember most about Holtz is when he coached at Notre Dame. I was working in Annapolis, Maryland at the time, and Navy used to have a press conference every Tuesday where the head coach, whether it be Gary Tranquil or George Chomp or whoever was the coach at the time, would do his little shtick and preview the next week's game. But they'd always call the opposing coach on a voice box there, the conference call thing. And my favorite thing was Navy had lost to Notre Dame maybe about 23, 24 years in a row. And somebody asked Holtz how he gets his team up for playing that game since they've always beaten Navy. And Holtz, I'll never forget it. He says, "We play Michigan. We play Southern Cal." He says, "They play Iwo Jima. They play Leyte Gulf." And it's like, yeah, okay, Lou, we get it. They're the Navy, but they're not bringing tanks and aircraft carriers onto the football field. But he was just so entertaining, and he was such a good coach and an incredible motivator. It's a shame because it's a very, very, very glorious part of college football history that is, another piece of it is gone.
Is he one of the all-time characters in the sport?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and look at the places he's won at, right? NC State, Minnesota, Arkansas. Didn't work out with the New York Jets, but I think he realized it quickly, went back to college and stayed there. And that's why he was so entertaining on and so popular on ESPN at the end of his career. Dr. Lou, right? What he said didn't always make sense. But boy, it was fun to listen to.
It reminds me in radio, the idea of, that top 40 voice, the Casey Kasem, then you had Ryan Seacrest. Not everyone can be that. You need different, people impersonate how I talk all the time. I get it because it's a character after a while. You need the characters. The other one I want to tell you is growing up in Chicago, where I had so many family, friends, neighbors, just so many people love Notre Dame, right? Because it's right there.
Right.
So when I was growing up and he was the coach, if they lost a game, that was a big deal. When Notre Dame lost, you couldn't believe it. We're Notre Dame. How could we lose? And then I always remember being in high school when Bob Davie took over, and that was a disaster. Yeah. And they're like, why did we fire Lou Holtz? And I always think about those things.
And, Lou was the guy there during the convicts versus Catholics whole fiasco. And but see, he was perfect for that because he played into all that and made it even more of a thing.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So, again, rest in peace. I think of him, Spurrier, Bobby Bowden, all these, I know
You don't do that anymore.
You don't. Look, I know it's changed with the history. Joe Paterno used to be a big name. Like, that used to be a big thing when we were growing up, and then it's not anymore. Let's go to college basketball here with Brett Friedlander then. All right, the team you cover, the one you've done it for a long time, the Duke Blue Devils, right in your backyard.
Yep.
John Shire, I've had you on in our career when you were talking about John Shire, the player helping Duke win the title.
Thanks for making me feel even older than I am.
Look, I heard the other day Nolan Smith is coaching Tennessee. Is it State, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I remember when he played for Duke. So,
well, he was in the same backcourt with Shire.
No, that's right.
They won a national championship, 2010.
So, Coach K leaves, Shire takes over. It's like they haven't missed a beat. They're just winning and win. What are your thoughts on the job he's done there?
Well, he's done a great job. First of all, I think that, Kay got a lot of heat for his victory tour, for basically staying that last year. But that last year was on the job training for John Shire. John Shire was basically coaching that team. And, I think that it's the reason he was ready to step in right away, as opposed to North Carolina, where Hubert Davis just kind of got thrown into that without any real, foresight. And it took him a couple of years. Now, he is finally this year, I think, kind of learned from the mistakes that he made. Yeah, he got to the Final Four his first year, but it took a lot of things to happen. But Hubert has made some mistakes along the way, especially in roster construction. And this year's team is really the culmination of all the lessons that he's learned. But Shire didn't have to go through that, because he had that season where he had the greatest coach of all time standing right next to him, basically showing him everything. And he's, like you said, picked it up and just kept that thing rolling. The thing that I really like about this year's team is that, yes, they've got a generational talent in Cam Boozer, like they did last year with Cooper Flagg. And they've got a whole roster full of McDonald's All-Americans. But this is a totally different team. It's not like Shire said, okay, let's roll the ball out and let's just play the same way. He realized that this was a bigger, more physical team, and he devised a system where they don't run up and down the court like they did last year. They play a slower tempo. They go inside. It's a very physical, gritty team, and they defend better than anybody in the country. They're number one right now in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency. And so they play a totally different style than last year's team. And I think that, to be honest with you, this team might be better prepared for the postseason because of it.
That win against Michigan, is that the best win of anybody in college basketball this year?
Yes, absolutely. And, you bring up that Michigan game. Last year, Shire tried to do the same thing. He scheduled a late February non-conference game against Illinois, which for most of the season was one of the best teams in the country. But when they got them at Madison Square Garden, Illinois' two best players were hurt. Duke just kind of steamrolled that game. And then they went and they finished out the schedule against a North Carolina team that barely scraped into the tournament. And then Cooper Flagg got hurt in the ACC tournament. I don't think that they were really, really in a mindset at that NCAA tournament where they were at their best. I think they kind of got set back a little bit. Now you're playing that same non-conference game, and this time they draw Michigan, which is number one in the country. And again, defensive-wise, they won that game on defense and on the glass. Michigan scores 1 million points, and I think they were held to their lowest point total of the season against Duke. And that's what wins in the postseason. But more than that, now Duke is really battle-tested. They played Michigan in a Final Four quality game on a neutral site. Then they come home and they play the second best team in the ACC, Virginia, and, a full strength Virginia, and just run them out of the gym. And now they get a UNC team on Saturday that beat them. And so I think that this is not only a more physical, more, postseason kind of prepared team. I think they're going to be at the top of their game, and it's going to be really kind of fun to see how far they can get, because I think this team's got a great shot at winning it all.
Okay. There's no wrong answers here. Is it a down year for the ACC overall? Even though you have all these ranked teams, I don't think it's that good. How about you?
Oh, I think it is not a down year. Listen, compared to the last 2 years, this is like the fact that they're talking about 8 teams in the tournament. Last year they got 4, and John Rothstein was talking about how they were a 2-bid league. So yes, Duke is head and shoulders above everybody, but I think that they've got legitimate, elite teams in UNC, in Virginia, and Miami.
Yeah.
And then you've got another tier that I think that, given the right draw and given, a good health, I think you could see an NC State or an SMU or I'm leaving somebody out, but get to the second week of the tournament, win a couple of games. So yeah, I think that this is a much better year. Is it a vintage year for the ACC? No, because you basically have that one team that has really set itself apart. But I think this is a much better ACC than it's been since COVID.
It's funny because I cover UCF. I'm watching so much Big 12 basketball where everyone's just killing each other every night. It's just so I kind of see how difficult it is. And then I look at the ACC and I'm not as sure. Maybe it's because I look at it. How many teams in the ACC can make a run to the Final Four? I feel like Duke's the only team that has a legitimate shot. Is that okay if I feel that way?
I think that Carolina's a weird team. First of all, Caleb Wilson has to come back and be healthy. And I will be shocked if he is not in the lineup Saturday against Duke. And if he doesn't, he should be back by the ACC tournament. But assuming that he's back, Carolina is the kind of team that could get to the Final Four, but it could also lose to a 12 seed in the first round of the tournament because they have been really great and they have been really kind of sometimes in the same game. They played Syracuse back in early February at the Dean Dome, led by 32 points with 12 minutes to go. Syracuse got it down to single digits before Carolina ended up winning by, I want to say, 8 or 10. So, they have a tendency to take their foot off the accelerator, but when they are in sync and they are playing at their best, they're really good. And they beat Duke and they beat legit fair and square. I mean, there was no flukes there. And then the other thing too about Virginia is that Virginia is extremely big inside. They rebound and they can get to the rim as well as anybody I've seen this year. The problem is they are a very, very streaky shooting team. And so you really can't count on them, which is why making a long run is definitely a long shot for them. But they've got the pieces, and Ryan Odom can coach his behind off. And they've got the pieces to be able to make that kind of run, although I think that would take a little bit of bracket luck, I think.
I'm happy you brought him up. I think he's the coach of the year in college basketball. From the standpoint, Tony Bennett, who's now Hall of Fame level there in Charlottesville.
Named the court after him last week.
Yeah, he left, and a lot of Jim Larinaga did the same thing. All these coaches, I'm out. I'm out. Goodbye, and just left the program. They didn't know what they were going to do. He comes in, they don't miss a beat. Just like John Shire. I think it's an incredible story that you just show up and you're a top 15 team.
Yeah, and you know what? Who else really deserves a lot of attention and a lot of credit is Jay Lucas down at Miami. That was a team that won 7 games last year. 7 games. Larinaga left in December because he said, forget this. They are 23-6. They're going to be maybe a 6 or 7 seed. That is just incredible. And to be honest with you, that is a big reason why the ACC is making a rebound, why it is coming back. It's not back yet, but it's on its way back. Why? Because now you've got coaches like Ryan Odom, like Pat Kelsey, like Jay Lucas, like John Shire, like Andy Enfield, like Mark Madsen. You have upgraded, you lost all those Hall of Famers, and there was a void there. But you can start to see that these teams are now starting to maybe upgrade their coaching again, and that void is now shortening. So I think the coaching, and also another thing about the ACC is that you've seen Virginia Tech, Clemson, Miami, NC State have all increased their basketball budgets. And listen, you could be John Wooden, you could be Mike Krzyzewski, but if you've got 1- and 2-star players, you're going to have 1- and 2-star results. So they're able to afford better players off the transfer portal, and as freshmen. They've got better coaching, and I think that it's a combination of things why the ACC is having a good year.
You know what, though? This is like Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Right now, I'd take my Florida Gators over all those teams. They are killing people.
Hey, listen, I liked them last year. I just love the chemistry that he builds down there. They just have an attitude, and hey, listen, I love them getting up by about 20 because I like seeing guys who are 7'9" come in and dunk without leaving the floor. I ran into him at the Final Four last year in the hallway. And it's like I'm standing there looking at a guy who was 6'9" standing next to him, who looked like he was a point guard. It was ridiculous.
I remember the time I saw Taco Fall play basketball. And I couldn't believe it until I saw that kid in Gainesville.
Taco Fall, who had a layup to beat Duke and knocked Zion Williamson and Duke out of the NCAA tournament in the second round. And missed it.
I'm still angry about that game. And it's crazy because it's Johnny Dawkins who played at Duke. It's crazy. All right.
Yep.
Let's end with this for fun. For college football with the ACC. I asked this to everyone, so you're up. The Miami Hurricanes are going nonstop with transfer portal quarterbacks. It'll be a third straight year. Will they ever recruit a high school kid to play at quarterback for them ever again?
Well, first of all, the whole intrigue behind the Darian Mensah situation is fascinating because he came to Duke. He signed a 2-year deal with Duke and then said, yeah, I had a good year. I'm crumpling that thing up, throwing it away and going for where they're going to pay me even more. And then, the courts got involved and finally I think they settled. But I don't think they're ever going to. Under the current, landscape, why would you? If you've got the money to go out and elite, and get an elite free agent quarterback every year, preferably one with more than 1 year eligibility, but if you could do it every year, why? Because if you bring in a freshman, okay, if you recruit a freshman, even if he doesn't start, you bring in he's going to say, you know what, I didn't start right away. I'm entering the transfer portal, and so you could develop somebody basically for somebody else. So why don't you use everybody else as your farm team and, throw a lot of cash around, have somebody else develop a quarterback and bring him in. Listen, if you can afford it, I'm all for it. And let me just tell you, they've got a good one. I mean, he doesn't have the Mensah does not have the hype that a Cam Ward or Carson Beck did. But this kid's got a cannon. He's got a lot stronger arm than Carson Beck. Now, I don't know that he makes as good a decisions. Sometimes, he's a gunslinger, more like Cam Ward than Beck. But this kid's got mobility. He's just kind of got that panache, and he's going to fit in really well there.
If he doesn't beat Virginia in the ACC title game, I don't think Miami's in the playoff. I'm not kidding.
I don't think so either. No, because basically the winner of that game is going to be in the playoff, and that's it.
I think Virginia would have been in the playoff.
I think so too, yeah.
And Miami would. So they're like, you know what? Just go get that guy. That's what we'll do. That's what it's going to be. Brett, how can we check out your stuff online?
You can check it out at hoopshq.com or straightupsports.com. I would love to tell you that I'm on X, but right now I am suspended because somebody hijacked my account and I'm having trouble getting ownership back of it. When I do, it will be at BFriedACC. That's BFRIEDACC. And I am on Facebook too.
I will still be your friend if you're not on Twitter. Okay.
Thank you.
Brett, thanks for your help. Have a great day and come back on to preview the tournament with me. All right.
Anytime, Mark. Always for you.
Great stuff. Always love talking to that fine gentleman. Brett Friedlander does a great job with his multiple publications covering college sports, especially the ACC there in North Carolina. This is the Mark Moses Show. If you'd like to be an advertiser, hit me up with an email at markmosesshow.com. And yes, we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Yeah, coming up tonight, I know the Magic. They're going to be hosting the Dallas Mavericks. They're going to try to go for 2 in a row. At this hour, we're not sure if Cooper Flagg is going to make his debut there in Orlando. I know he's been playing all season. I'm just saying, first time playing there at the Kia Center. He is a phenom and a former Duke player. We were just talking about that with Brett Friedlander. All right, let's continue the conversation. I know the big one is DJ Moore to the Bills, but how about last night we learned more about Lou Holtz passing away, 89 years old, a legend in the world of college sports and especially college football. Here for this morning, we sat down, we talked with Tim Walters of the Florida Today newspaper, get his thoughts on Lou Holtz, and then he wanted to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Here's Tim Walters. You're on the Mark Moses Show. As he always does here on a Thursday, is my great friend, Mr. 321 himself. Yes, Tim Walters with the Florida Today newspaper. Tim, how you doing today?
Doing great, Mark. I'm waiting for our invite into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
All right. We were going to start with that, but we heard the news late yesterday. As you know, we both cover college football. We're fans of the sport. We lost one of the great legends, Lou Holtz. Very sad story. What were your thoughts when you heard this, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I had known that Lou Holtz, he had been sick and in hospice for a while, almost 90 years old. God love him. A really great long life. I remember that Notre Dame team of the early 90s. I think I was 15 or 16 when Lou Holtz led them to the national championship. But, Mark, I can also remember him on Thursday Night Football. Him and Mark May used to go back and forth. Now you're going back 15, almost 20 years ago. And when my wife and I, well before children, early in our marriage, we used to on Thursday night sit down. We loved seeing his Dr. Lou segments that he would do at halftime and things like that. And so I was really sad last night, but you're also, you're happy that he's, out of whatever pain or suffering that he had been in for hopefully not too long. But, Mark, I had to go and dig out because, Dr. Lou used to have all of these great sayings and isms, if you will. And there was one time where he said one that I wrote down, and I saved the folder all of these years later, Mark. So this was from 2008, or what I call 6 BC, before children, because this was 6 years before my daughter was born and I could watch college football regularly. But this is what Dr. Lou said. So I'll read it right off of my folder here. It says, everybody needs 4 things: something to do, someone to love, something to hope for, and something to believe in. If you have a void in your life, you'll find one of those ingredients is missing. I just loved that. I thought that there was so much, just so much knowledge in that. So I wrote that one down. The other one, and my writing's a little smaller, so I actually have to take my glasses off here, Mark, to read this because I'm getting old.
You're right, man.
It says, happiness is nothing more than having a poor memory. If you can't remember what happened yesterday, you feel really good about yourself today. So I always loved that from Lou Holtz. So I wrote those down and kept them for nearly 20 years because I think that the knowledge that Lou Holtz held was fantastic.
It's interesting. I could tell you never met him before, did you?
No, I didn't. He's one of the college football legends I did not have the pleasure of meeting.
I really feel like he's one of these all-time characters in college football. And we were texting back and forth this morning about, who'd be your Mount Rushmore of just characters. And Spurrier, Bobby Bowden. I mean, we had 2 of them here in the state of Florida. I mean, you could just go on and on and on. Were there any others that you could think of where they're just all-time characters like Lou Holtz was?
Yeah, maybe not quite as famous, but I think Mike Leach, who passed away about 3 years ago, I thought he was one of the greats too. He had some wonderful quotes, and I couldn't remember those. I don't have them written down on a folder. So I went and grabbed a few of my favorite Mike Leach isms because his weren't as quite philosophical as what Dr. Lou said. But, when you say things like, it's a little like breakfast, you eat ham and eggs. As coaches and players, we're like the ham. You see, the chicken's involved, but the pig's committed. We're like the pig. They're like the chicken. They're involved, but everything we have rides on this. Like, what is he talking about? I wish I could have been a media member when he busts out a classic like this. If a pine cone war breaks out, you have no choice but to engage in it. There are no neutral countries in pine cone wars. Like,
what? See, what's sad with Mike Leach is he died very young compared to some of these other guys. So it's one of those things where Leach should have been on TV like Lou Holtz was, and like Lee Corso, and go for another 30 years, and then he becomes one of these characters. Because I wrote this to you. I think there's a golden opportunity here where Mike Gundy, where he's no longer the coach, get him on TV with that mullet and let him start talking crazy for the next 30 years.
I'm a man. I'm 40. Well, now he's like 60. If you believe it, that happened almost 2 decades ago too. But it kept him famous. But there was a guy, just like Mike Leach, no brain to mouth filter. It just, if it came to his head, it was coming out of his mouth, and he did not care. So, yes, I think they would probably need about a 6 to 8 second delay if they put him on television. But yes, Mike Gundy would be another good one.
Jimbo Fisher is one of those characters where he starts talking and you have no idea what he's like. He would talk so fast. I don't know what you're saying. Like, I tried doing the press conferences. I had no idea. He's another type. So is the key to being a great character in college football as a coach? Do you just have to talk crazy? Like you're just some crazy scientist? What is it, Tim?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, there's got to be a method to the madness. Again, unless you're Mike Leach, who said fish aren't smart. It's not like they have advanced degrees. It's just he had some of those beautiful sayings. But yeah, I mean, you have to have a little bit of that. Like Bobby Bowden, look at him and Steve Spurrier and the juxtaposition of those two. Spurrier was this explosive guy. He had all of these great one-liners, like when one of Bowden's players was caught stealing shoes in a shoe store, and he said FSU stands for Free Shoes University. It's like, wonderful things like that. You can't spell citrus without UT when he was insulting the Tennessee Volunteers. Spurrier was great like that. Bobby Bowden, you know what? People don't know this, or maybe they don't want to believe it. He was as much of a snake as Spurrier, but he did it behind an aw shucks. He seemed like your grandpa. You wanted to give him a hug. I loved interviewing Bobby Bowden, but you don't get to be one of the tops in college football just by being a nice aw shucks grandpa. He was doing things that he didn't want seen, but he hid it behind that exterior lens. Hey, you know what? Look at Urban Meyer. He was able to hide one of the all-time worst group of human beings ever because he had Tim Tebow out in front genuflecting. Oh. So, the Pouncey brothers they were kind of like hired goons in a mafia movie. You had Aaron Hernandez, who may have murdered people while in college, all of that. The running back, Percy Harvin, who was always in trouble and beating up women. It's like, but there was Tebow front and center genuflecting. So nobody noticed it. So,
and that's the last time.
Smart, if nothing else.
That's the last time they won. Hey, never forget that here in the great state of Florida. That's the last good Gator team when you really think about it. When I think of Bobby Bowden, I close my eyes. I picture him on the sideline, and it's the 90s, and he's got this gaudy, outrageous Nike FSU like sweatshirt on, and then he's got one of those FSU hats with the big spear on. Like, that's when I think of Bobby Bowden. When I think and he's talking trash to the Gators. That's what it is. All right, so I heard this one this morning. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm just going to throw it out there for Lou Holtz. So when he gets to South Carolina, he does like all coaches do. You get the fans involved. You do a Q&A with the fans. It's a dinner event. It's great. And one of the Gamecock fans told Lou Holtz, hey, I've been a season ticket holder for the last 30 years. I'm all in on this football team. What do you think of that, Coach Holtz? And Lou Holtz told him, wow, you've seen a lot of bad football then over the last 30 years. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that Florida has 2 Hall of Fame or Mount Rushmore guys in Bowden and Spurrier. South Carolina had Lou Holtz and Spurrier as its head coaches. Obviously both past their prime, but still, that's something to talk about.
And both those jabronis could not win anything when they were the guys. I'm just joking. Spurrier's the man. All right. I can't stress this enough. So that is, Lou Holtz passing away. Very sad story. And I'm just happy. I just want to say this to you. I'm so happy I got to meet Bobby Bowden, Steve Spurrier, and the number one deep in my heart, Lee Corso. When I got to meet him at the Kennedy Space Center, that was one of the coolest moments of my career. I don't get. Did you ever get to meet Lee Corso?
No, I did not get to meet Lee Corso, but you mentioned the Kennedy Space Center. A friend of mine on Facebook this morning shared a picture. His dad used to work up at Kennedy Space Center, and he got to give Lou Holtz a tour of the VAB. And so he had a nice picture of his dad who's also passed on, with Lou Holtz, who's now passed on. And his comment was, I hope Dad and Lou Holtz are talking Notre Dame football up in heaven. So, yeah, I thought that was a cool picture to see Lou Holtz out at the Space Center.
Growing up in Chicago, when Lou Holtz was the coach at Notre Dame, you're constantly in Chicago, gigantic Irish Catholic Notre Dame fan base. It's only an hour from Chicago, and you really think about it. When they lost a game, that was a big deal. Oh my, I can't believe Notre Dame lost a game. And I always think about it in high school when Bob Davie took over, and it was a complete disaster where they were losing nonstop. And every Notre Dame fan's like, maybe we should have kept Lou Holtz. I always remember that with Notre Dame football. So that is college football. We want to switch gears because I've started all these fights online where they announced the nominations for the 2026 class for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And there are a lot of nominations on there, like Mariah Carey, Sade, Shakira. And it makes me wonder, is it even a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or is it just a Music Hall of Fame now? What are your thoughts, Mr. I taped MTV growing up nonstop? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first, and we'll get into this in a minute, Mark, I have ranked all 17 of the nominees to let you know who, and they don't have a set number. Like the NFL only allows a certain amount in each year, and the NBA and baseball. But with this, they'll allow anywhere between 5 and 10. And out of this group of 17, and there's a lot of talent in here, I came up with 8 that I would put in this year. That's not to say the people that didn't make the cut shouldn't be in it, but just not this year. As far as naming the Hall of Fame, yeah, I think that, it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's supposed to be here in the United States, yet we have British bands in it, like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. So maybe we just need to call it like the International Music Hall of Fame or something to that effect, because it does need all of those. You named some great stars. And in fact, I won't give away my ranking, but, Shakira, who's huge in South America, had a great, many hits here in the United States. She's now been around for 2 decades. She needs to be in, but would you call her rock and roll? That's probably not the genre that she would fall under, even though she plays guitar and drums very well because she's an excellent musician. But yeah, so I think just calling it like the International Music Hall of Fame or the United States International Hall of Fame, whatever you want to call it, but it does need to encompass all of the different genres.
Oh, it's kind of like here where I live, where they call it the Orlando Melbourne International Airport, which makes no sense, but that's what they go with. Here's what I'll do. I will name them off real quick, then you give us your ranking. So it's the Black Crowes, Jeff Buckley, Mariah Carey, Phil Collins, Melissa Etheridge, Lauryn Hill, Billy Idol, INXS, Iron Maiden. I know that'll be on your list. Joy Division, New Order, who I listen to both of them. New Edition, Oasis, Pink, Sade, Shakira, Luther Vandross. When I think of rock and roll, I think of Luther Vandross and Wu-Tang Clan. And I'm just going to say this real quick. When I think of the idea of rock and roll, it's supposed to be rebellion. It's supposed to be the kids, and your parents aren't supposed to be listening to this. And it's supposed to be expression, and you're cool and a rebel. So it's sometimes when I think of rap music, I think rap music goes under that idea, right? It does. But Sade, Smooth Operator, no. And Sade's incredible. Give me your top 8.
All right. So the ones that didn't make the cut, and we won't linger too long on them, but Jeff Buckley, wonderful musician, but when you compare him to the others in this class, I left him out. Pink, no, I've never really gotten the Pink. Joy Division, New Order, maybe at some point they should go in. I just think that there's too many good musicians in front of them there. Melissa Etheridge, that's one where I used to hear her music. Like I worked at a shoe store in the mall and I wanted to ram a pencil into my eardrum. So, no offense to Melissa Etheridge. Lots of people enjoy her music, just not me. Luther Vandross, I was on the fence about Luther because he is such a big, superstar, but also name 5 hits from Luther Vandross that actually name the songs. You can't.
I can't.
Sade, you mentioned Smooth Operator, but it's hard because, I wouldn't quite call her a one-hit wonder, but it's pretty close. So that not there. I love the Black Crowes, But really, Shake Your Money Maker, that one album, it had all of their hits on it. So they may have to wait a little bit. I do like the Black Crowes. And here's the last one that didn't make the cut. And this might be controversial. New Edition. I know they're like the blueprint for boy bands. But again, so many boy bands that came after them were a lot better. They were called New Edition because they were supposed to be like the new Jackson 5, the new edition of the Jackson 5. So, there's that. So they didn't make the cut. So now here are the 8 I would put in. I think Lauryn Hill certainly deserves to be in there. Gets huge with the Fugees. She was actually in a soap opera in the 80s. A lot of people might not even realize it. Read her history. It's fascinating. But of course, Killing Me Softly, that's one of those songs that even if it was a one-hit wonder, is so well known and span generations. I think she gets in for that in her body of work. Oasis I put in this time. Now look, again, another one album wonder, but every song on that was huge and they were global superstars, labeled the next Beatles. I think they've waited long enough. I think the two brothers might kill themselves if they were at the same induction ceremony, but hey, be fun to watch.
I'll just say this. Their hatred for each other, love-hate relationship, that should just go in the Hall of Fame. Just that idea should go. All right, keep going, buddy.
Shakira, I think, again, international musical sensation, movies, hit songs, Super Bowl halftime shows. She's just incredible. I don't know if people truly understand that it's not just a singer. She's not just, an attractive woman. She's a great musician, plays drums, guitar, all of these different instruments. So she's got the whole package as far as it goes. Billy Idol. I mean, I remember some of his songs. You're shaking your head. No, Rock the Cradle of Love. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I apologize. He should be first ballot, cultural icon. The fact that he's not already in is shocking to me. That's what I was going to try to say.
I was surprised to see that as well. So Billy Idol gets in. InXS. How is InXS not in? I mean, my Lord, everybody knows how many songs by InXS, and they were just such another global sensational band. Here are my top 3. Wu-Tang Clan, not only as a collective, but the number of stars that came out of Wu-Tang. And, they put out their first album in 93. I remember what a big deal that was. I was in high school. Everybody owned that album. Even me, heavy metal guy. I loved listening to that album. But then they all did their separate things. They put out their own, Method Man and, Ghostface Killer. My friend, he had a cat that he named Master Killer after the musician Master Killer. Old Dirty Bastard. I mean, look, all of them individually were famous. Then in 97, they come back and put another huge hit album out. So Wu-Tang in my top 3. As you mentioned, Iron Maiden. One of my favorite bands of all time, 100 million albums sold. I saw them most recently in 2022. These guys are in their late 60s, early 70s. They sounded as good as they did in 1988. So many hit songs. If you're not familiar with Iron Maiden, I mean, my God, just go listen to any one of their albums. Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Somewhere in Time, Fear of the Dark, their introduction album, The Number of the Beast, with Bruce Dickinson. He used to fly their jumbo jet, Mark. He got a pilot's license and used to fly the Iron Maiden plane from country to country. And then number 1, he's already in with Genesis, but Phil Collins. You have to put him in as an individual. Phil is another one. Health not good. May not make it much longer. Maybe he'll get well again, advanced in age, but I would love to see him go in because I think Phil Collins just, his contributions to the music world, I think of seeing, like, again, MTV videos where he's back there playing drums and he's the lead singer. It's like, boy, that's hard to do. So please, let's get Phil Collins in there. So that's who I'm putting in, Mark.
When I think of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, they go back to Renaissance time, and the king captures Bill and Ted and tells the soldiers, put them in the Iron Maiden. And they're like, excellent.
And then execute them. Bogus.
I think of Iron Maiden every time. All right, I'm going to go Phil Collins. Yes. What's funny is, not an attractive man, but one of the most famous musicians ever on MTV at the height of MTV, when you think about it. Phil Collins, Billy Idol, come on. In Excess, yes. Love In Excess. Iron Maiden, Wu-Tang Clan. And here's the thing. This is like the NFL, what we just had with Bill Belichick. Some of these people are worthy, but maybe they're not first ballot worthy. Maybe that, like you talk about Shakira. Shakira's great. Maybe she's not first ballot worthy. So maybe you got to put some of these other people in before them. Joy Division, New Order. Like when I think of Joy Division, it's kind of like it created a genre, that type of music. And there's bands after them that kind of, like I always love Interpol. That's just like kind of a clone of Joy Division, if we're going snooty here. Oasis, I like Oasis, but like, see, this is the thing. Is it the longevity? Like, shouldn't you look at body of work? Not just, like you said, they're one album. But some of these other people had multiple albums that were incredible. So I don't know. I'm going to go with that. But you're going bigger. You're going like 8 of them to get in. That's what you're going with. Okay.
A lot of good musicians there, Mark. It's hard. And, I don't envy the people voting on this. And there are a lot of first timers on here. You mentioned Shakira. Lauryn Hill is a first time nominee. Luther Vandross. That's why I said Luther will get in at some point. So it's like there are a lot of good individual acts. Just one other Phil Collins note, thanks to him, Mike Tyson became a household name again in The Hangover, right? Mike Tyson had kind of disappeared from the zeitgeist.
That's right.
Yeah, he had spent time in jail. He had bitten someone's ear off. And all it took was one funny scene in The Hangover. And now for 2 decades, he's become this beloved figure, out of the ashes. So he can thank Phil Collins too.
I think of that song with Miami Vice in the pilot when Don Johnson's driving that car and they're playing Phil Collins. That's what I think about. Take Me Home is such a great song. He has so many hits. I mean, he really does.
Well, and even you mentioned videos one more time, and I know it's with Genesis, who's already in, but everybody remembers Land of Confusion, where little Ron Reagan is running around in his suit, and then he becomes Superman, and it's and all of the puppety faces. What a great video! I miss videos, Mark. I just miss good videos.
They're still there. They're just on YouTube, but
they're not as good.
You see, I don't think people understand. Like, it was appointment television to see those shows on MTV. And you've told me this, like Headbangers Ball and Yo MTV Raps. And I liked 120 Minutes. Like, that was, and like their video was on. That was dude, I remember being in college and my buddy Travis, who loves music, musician, all that stuff. And I was like, oh man, you got to see this Queens of the Stone Age video. I go with the flow. And I remember we're in my dorm and we're waiting for the video. You're waiting for the video. Just like on the radio, you used to have like a top 9 at 9, and it was the 9 best songs. And you're waiting. Maybe my song will be number 1, and you're taping it with a cassette. Because you used to tape, you would let our listeners know, viewers, you would tape MTV so you could have the videos, right?
Yes, I used to set the VCR. I knew how to actually do that. It used to be a running joke. No one could figure out how to set the VCR. I used to set it for a certain time. I would record, dial MTV. Sometimes I would sit there and just record single videos. I have 20 VHS tapes that are now all 40 years old. I've digitized half of them now. I do need to get to the other half. Hopefully they still work, because I have the ability to turn a VHS into a digital file, but I don't have the time to do it anymore. But you talk about the appointment. It's like I watch a lot of videos now, and most of them are concert videos, bands on stage playing their song. Like, these used to all be like mini movies. And some people kind of blame Guns N' Roses for the downfall of the video, and I'll tell you why. They had a video off of the double album Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 called Estranged. And for those who remember that song, it cost $7 million to make that video. It was the most expensive video ever. And Axl Rose rented an oil tanker, which was close to $1 million of the budget. And he ends up not a stunt double. Yes. He jumped off of the oil tanker. So much going on in that video. It's a great song too, by the way. One of my favorite Guns N' Roses songs. But people say that the budgets They no longer wanted to dump all that money into it and all of those things. Videos got a little bit more simple when grunge came along, and then it just slowly backslid until about 1998, when I would say the true video age, even though it was still happening, kind of died there.
I remember this video, and I love Guns N' Roses, but that was kind of the end. I'm sorry to say that. That was like, I think of November Rain though as the like, this was epic. And he's with Stephanie Seymour, and then she dies, and then Slash is outside the chapel, and he's doing the guitar solo. I love it. And we were talking earlier about Bobby Bowden. When I picture him, when I picture Axl Rose, he's in the bicycle shorts, and like you would wear like the NWA t-shirt, you know what I mean? And he'd be storming off stage. Axl Rose is the man. By the way, he will be at Welcome to Rockville this May in Daytona. If you want to win tickets, go to 959therocket.com. I will be there. Hopefully Tim Walters will be there. Tim, thank you so much for your help. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you later, all right?
It was a great plug. And today, instead of my normal quote, I'll leave you with one more Mike Leachism, where he said, "I do have a Viking axe by the bed if I need to whack someone. My wife bought me a Viking axe. The axe side curls down so you can grab the adversary around the neck, and you can use it to climb walls as a grappling hook." Rest in peace, Mike Leach, and rest in peace, Lou Holtz.
Great conversation with Tim Walters. Yes, with the Florida Today newspaper, and rest in peace to Lou Holtz. But it appears, Tim, he likes Mike Leach sayings more than Lou Holtz. But yes, rest in peace to Lou Holtz. Appreciate Brett Friedlander and Tim Walters coming on today. If you miss anything, follow me on the socials at Mark Moses Show, and check out my website at markmosesshow.com. Yeah, big news today. DJ Moore traded from the Bears. He's going there to the Buffalo Bills. It's going to be fascinating to see what the Bears do with that draft capital, getting a second-round pick and who they might pick up in free agency and in the NFL draft. If you're the Bills, you're all in. You're getting the ball to DJ Moore, and you think you're going to the Super Bowl. We'll find out. Yeah. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Mark Moses Show.